Hello, welcome to the conclusion of our Pliny selection. Maybe actually we'll get to the conclusion. It's the last paragraph, certainly. But if you think I can get through this in 15 minutes, no, so there'll probably be a whole other 15-minute video at some point in time, right after this. So, affirmabant. Here's my verb. Affirmabant. They affirmed, however, that this had been the height, the pinnacle, either of their blame, or of their error, or their mistake. Now, seems like, what is he doing here? Splitting hairs. Like, what is the difference between these two things? Mistake or an error, right? So, something with culpa here, something that is a culpa, is something that you can be blamed for, culpability, culprit. Mea culpa is a Latin phrase that comes to us to indicate that you admit some sort of blame, which you should never do, of course. Mea culpa, it's my fault. Now, it implies that you can be punished for it. And in the Roman world at this time, if you're going to be punished for something you've done, there's some sort of law. There's some sort of statute. There's something on the books, if I can use that phrase, that you could point to and say, this is the exact thing you broke. This is the law you broke, and you are going to be punished. An error is a mistake, right? But not one that can be prosecuted as being against the law, right? An error is more like a simple mistake that has really no bearing on the law, like a personal error in judgment, but not something that is prosecutable. So this is something that they're admitting, and they don't even know, is this a crime? Is this just like a personal shortcoming that I had? Whatever. Now, this quad clause is a little tricky. It's like, namely the fact that, namely that. It's subjunctive because it's implied or indirect discourse. Right? Because this is what these people are saying, and Pliny is reporting what these people are saying to Trajan, and now to us, to posterity. So when you find the subjunctive here, it's implying that Pliny is not reporting this as firsthand. This is all very secondhand. And this is important if you're interested at all in the history of religion here, right? Because these are competing, hostile ideologies that don't necessarily get along with one another. And so what are the facts? What is propaganda? What were the actual behaviors? So Pliny here is being very circumspect. He is affirming, he himself is affirming, but that they are affirming that these are according to witnesses and not first person. Pliny doesn't witness this firsthand. Namely that they had been accustomed. Now, this is from Soleo, so you should know that you want to take an infinitive with that. They were accustomed to convene, come together, before light, on a given day, on an agreed upon day. Now, okay, so, doesn't sound too awful, doesn't sound great. Who likes to wake up before light, right? Before light is very early in the morning, like when I record these. Okay, so I keep going. And what's going to be very hard is that there are a number of infinitives that are going to still go with essent soliti. They were accustomed to do a bunch of infinitives. The first one here is convenera, to come together. The other one is going to be, the next one I should say, is going to be dicere. Namely that they were accustomed to come together before light on a given day and to say a song to Christ or the Anointed One as if to a god. Right? Of course, that is Pliny's like editorializing, right? Because to the Christians, it's not as if. It's like he is, unless you get into the Arian heresy, which we're not going to because that's more the age of Justinian. You can look that up if you want. To say a song to the Anointed One as if to a god with themselves back and forth. Now, that's like, what is going on here? He's describing a kind of ritual hymn, chanting songs, ritual songs back and forth amongst themselves. And you have to go to the next infinitive, right? We said that essent soliti is going to be governing our infinitives. And to obstringere, to bind themselves. Tricky little accusative object there. By means of oath. By means of oath. Not in any crime. That is probably one of the harder little prepositional phrases. Not in any kind of crime. Not in any crime. Not for the purpose is the idea of any crime. Why do they get together? So they sing songs early in the morning to the Anointed One, as if to a god. So it's some sort of religious hymn. And why do they do it? Well, they bind themselves not for any crime. They don't swear to commit crimes. Oh, well, okay, that doesn't seem so terrible, because, right, what's Pliny trying to find here? Some sort of statutory criminality, something that's on the books that's criminal. So, has he found it yet? No, he hasn't. So, but like, okay, so if they're binding themselves with an oath by a sacrament, what's the purpose? To what end? To what end are they doing that? Ne committerent. So I have ne and the subjunctive. This is really ut ne. It's a negative purpose clause or just a purpose clause. When it's negative, the ut ne, the ut and the ut ne just kind of drops out. It's still there. You just have to infer it. Very good. But so that they don't commit. But so they wouldn't commit. Now, what are these things? Furta ne latrocinia ne adulteria committerent. Thefts, robberies, and adulteries. You can use and, or you can use neither. So they commit neither thefts, robberies, or adulteries. Wait a second. So these Christians, these radical, allegedly crazy people, are getting together early in the morning, and they're going through religious rituals, and they're swearing holy oaths. To do what? Subvert the state? No. To abide by the law. Wow, crazy. They're like swearing to be good citizens. All right, this is what Pliny would like for them to do anyway. That they don't do these terrible things. Wow. So, not so radical so far. What else do they bind themselves in oaths not to do? Interesting. To bind yourself in, what is an oath? Oaths are usually there to compel you to do something. I think maybe in a lot of minds, but here it's to refrain from things. And that they don't break faith. That they don't break faith. And that's hard to know what Pliny's talking about here. Fides, it's a big word, right? It can have something to do with trustworthiness between friends, between lovers. It can be more of a state idea. It can be like a contract. It's very vague what that one is. It could be just the faith of their own specific religion, which would be problematic because maybe that is explaining why they won't worship the emperor. So that they don't break, deceive faith, and so they don't default on a loan. That's what we're going to translate that as. Abnegate a deposit, or the derivatives we get there, having been called. So that they don't default on a debt having been called, meaning the term of the loan comes due, that they've been summoned because the term of the loan has come due. Now, like, I try to imagine like my friend coming to me and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you should come to this like new religion, these Christian services. They're called Christians. It just means the anointed. And we get up really early in the morning and we sing some songs and we swear to pay off our credit card bills on time." Like, that sounds like not a recipe for a religion that's going to take off. Right? Oh, you can't commit adultery. No stealing, no robbery. You can't do those things. You can't break faith. And the credit card loans, right? Make sure you pay off your loans. That's really important, right? Really important. Like, that just doesn't mean, compared to the Dionysian rituals, right? The kind of drunken orgiastic revelries that were associated with those, it doesn't seem that, what does this have to offer? We'll get into that.